So this is the last lesson of the chapter, chapter 1, lesson 9, and it's going to be direct variation. Direct variation. Before I tell you what direct variation is, let's talk about our objective. Students will be able to use direct variation to solve problems. So remember, we have our essential questions. For chapter 1, it's going to be how can you show that two objects are proportional? And then this lesson has the essential question, how can you show that two relationships are proportional? Now let's break down the vocabulary before we get started. Our first vocabulary word is direct variation. Now this is what you need to know about direct variation. It's really important, so please write this down because it's really important. If it is proportional, it is constant. That's something that we already worked on earlier in this lesson and in this chapter. In order for something to be proportional, it has to be constant. Now, if it is constant, that means it has a direct variation. So realize that these three words, proportional, constant, and direct variation, are connected. Because if something is proportional, that means that it is constant. And if it is constant, that means it has a direct variation. So all three words are connected. Something that's proportional is constant. Something that's constant has a direct variation. So you can mix that up any way you want. If it has a direct variation, that means it is constant. And if it is constant, that means it's proportional. If something is constant, that means it's proportional. And if something is proportional, that means there is a direct variation. So you can see those three words are linked together. They are basically mean the same thing. If something's proportional, it is constant. If it is constant, there's a direct variation. So obviously the opposite is true. If something is not proportional, that means it is not constant. And if it is not constant, that means there is no direct variation. So that is how those three words are connected. Now in this lesson, we're going to be talking about the constant of variation. And we're going to be talking about the constant of proportionality. And guess what? You guys already know how to do this because I've been talking about it this whole chapter. That is this formula right here. Constant equals y divided by x. So you guys already know how to do this because I've been doing it since the beginning. In order to find your constant, you're going to do y divided by x. So we're dealing with the constant of variation. But it's also the same thing as the constant of proportionality. It just has a different name. But it's basically the same thing. Constant, constant. So we've already dealt with the constant. In order to find your constant, you're going to do y divided by x. Now, we also have a new equation now. This new equation is y is equal to kx. So I don't want you to get scared because you technically already know this. You know that k represents your constant. So whatever is in the k position, if you have a number that is in this position, that is automatically going to be your constant. So for example, look right here. Y equals 2x. You see how y is in the y position? You see how x is in the x position? And you see the number before x. 2 is before x. That is the k position. So guess what? That means that your constant, just by looking, you automatically know that your constant is 2. Because it is in the k position in this equation. So this is not hard to understand. You just have to remember that the constant is going to be before the x. So look at this one. We have y equals 4x. What is in the constant position? Y goes with y, equals goes with equals, x goes with x. So that means that by process of elimination, your constant is 4 because that is in the constant position. Now look at this one. Y equals y. Kx, you have x right there, so that means that k has to be 1/2. So what is your constant in this situation? It's 1/2. So I don't want you to get confused by this new formula. This new formula is actually really easy to grasp. Whatever number is in front of the x, it's going to be your constant. So you see how the 2 is before the x? That's your constant. You see how the 4 is before the x? That's your constant. You see how the 1/2 is before the x? That's your constant. So we're going to be dealing with these two formulas in this lesson. And that is it for the intro.